Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Manchester United must sell to buy their next midfield. Well, I've just let the cat out of the bag there. Meow. They must sell to buy to bring in any more players. This is the news this morning from numerous outlets. We've also got an update on Raphael Varane's medical. Quite a big update that mentions the word tomorrow. We'll be talking about that. All the latest Manchester United transfer news involving Pogba, Saul, Neguez, the defensive situation, players heading out of the club, which I think is what we're moving towards now by the looks of it. I saw a lot of people last night saying this, and look, I think anything's possible this summer. Imagine if we went and got Koundé or Declan Rice. Probably not going to happen, but the way the summer's gone so far, I don't think you can discount anything. And I hope that momentum, that wave of positivity can continue all the way to the shore, which is on August the 31st, because we do need to get a midfielder in. But there does feel like there is a leak. And look, I say a leak. I don't know why people get so moody about this. Manchester United brief journalists. That's what happens because... And it can be done in a positive way because you want information. They'll brief if they're doing some sort of charity work. They'll brief if they've made a signing, for the women's team. All positive things. And I think there is a bit of a brief from sources or the club going around at the moment that United need to sell to buy. But we know that. We've sold nobody and we've got a lot of deadwood. So we'll talk about that. But the positive thing is that we appear to be very much looking at a centre defensive midfielder, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let me just bring you up to date on Varane's medical. Some quite breaking news on this, actually. Romano and all the good outlets have been saying that this medical will take place next week because of the COVID quarantine rules. Obviously, Varane is in Spain with Madrid. And at the moment, I think if you go on holiday to Spain or something like that, you've got to quarantine for 10 days. Now, he's a professional sportsman, so I think there'll be a way around that. But obviously, a lot of professional sportsmen haven't had the vaccine, have they? So L'Equipe, who are a French outlet, or L'Equipe, or however you say it, who are a French outlet, they're saying that Varane will have his medical tomorrow, ready for an official announcement straight after that. So we could, technically, get a Varane announcement tomorrow, or Thursday, or Friday. Although at the moment, the educated and well-informed journalists are saying that it will be next week. However, today is another day. And this was all yesterday that it'll happen next week. And most of this is down to... LB says, Jim White, breaking news. Jim White, breaking news. Most of this is down to the fact that it's quarantine rules. And basically, if those quarantine rules can be avoided or there's a way around them, then we could have Varane in a United shirt tomorrow. And the sooner the better. The sooner the better, because the sooner he's a Man United player, the sooner we move on to the next thing. And the sooner he's a Man United player, the sooner he can start pre-season training and get ready. He's going to be... Sancho and Varane are going to be well ready for the Leeds game unless they get injured or something horrible like that. So, that doesn't matter massively. But the sooner the better so that we can move on would be fantastic. Career mode tonight, says Pori. Yeah, if you want to check out my career mode, Goldbridge TV, the episode 1 is still there. And I will be playing today. It'll either be around sort of 4 o'clock or it'll be 11 o'clock tonight. So one of the two. I haven't decided yet, but there will be an episode 2. So let's have a look at other news that's going on with Manchester United at the moment. And as you can see, we've got Pogba out, Neguez in as the title of the show and sell to buy as the thumbnail. And this is very much the story that's going on with Manchester United this morning. I like the story, it's momentum, it's moving on from Varane into another area. I think United have been very good at that this transfer window so far. It was Sancho, we had a bit of Trippier, then we've had Varane, and obviously we haven't got Trippier yet, but I still think that'll happen. We've got Sancho, we've got Varane, let's move again. Now the Telegraph, James Ducker, is saying that Manchester United will need to sell to buy. They want their net spend to be somewhere between 70 million and 100 million pounds. Well, at the moment, we're already between 70 million and 100 million pounds. I don't know how... Look, if Varane's costing us 40 million and Sancho's costing us 80 million, does that mean our spend's 120 million? Or are we counting the fact that Sancho's going to be paid over the next 4 years? It's difficult. I think you've always got to take the value of the transfer. And the value of the transfer, therefore, is 35 million for Varane because the add-ons haven't been paid yet. We never say that we got Bruno for 60 million. We got Bruno for 48 with add-ons. So 35 million for Varane, 74 million for Sancho takes our spend to 110 million. Now, we want a midfielder as well, which is going to take that to 150 million. So we need to raise about 60 million at least to bring that spend below 100 million net. So James Ducker's mentioning Lingard. He says that West Ham want Lingard for about £30 million, 25, £35 million, and there is interest from abroad and domestically. And I think this is where, do you think we can get Goretzka, says Aidan? No, I think we're being used there for a contract renewal. But this is where we need to get ruthless. We're going to play a game tomorrow night against Brentford. I'm not massively looking forward to it because nobody's going to play that we haven't seen before. Well, I think McTominay might play, Henderson might play, but I mean, come on. We were dreadful on Saturday, and we're not learning anything from this. We're not. Most of those players are not going to play next season. So, you know, the novelty of pre-season sort of worn off a little bit for me because we need to get Van der Beek. We need Martial. Telles has got injured. Bruno's back in training today. You know, we're looking at the Leeds game now, and all this pre-season stuff was good for a couple of games, but ultimately nobody's really grabbed an opportunity, and nobody ever was going to grab an opportunity because we know how Ollie works. Ollie has his favourites. He doesn't like to rotate beyond that, and none of his favourites are really around at the moment. So tomorrow night's pre-season game against Brentford it's shop window time, isn't it? These players need to be shipped on, and I do the watch-alongs for these sort of games, and people are like, "Wow, let's give Palestri a go on the wing. Let's give Lingard a go as a number 10. Let's give Dan James a go." And I'm like, this is where we're going wrong. You know, you can't have the holding midfielder and keep these amount of players here. And I'm not going to call those players deadwood. I don't class Palestri as deadwood or Lingard as deadwood, but I do class them as surplus to requirements. Now, Palestri is going to go on loan, which is good for him. Lingard needs to be sold because we don't need him anymore, and there's 25 million. Dan James should be sold. There's another 20 million there. You've got 45 million. There's your midfielder. So, you know, people can talk about, oh, let's keep this player, let's keep that player. Have you seen the size of our squad? It's probably 26 now. Certainly 24 senior pros in the squad. Not young players, senior players on good wages. We've got 24. We need about 18. We need to ship off about 6 players, and we've done none of it yet. And to do that, you've got to get rid of the players that you don't really think you need anymore that have got value. Dan James has got value. Jesse Lingard has got value. So we need to remove these players to generate the funds to buy the midfielder that we want. And we'll talk about that midfielder in a moment, because what we do need to talk about is Pogba as well, because he is intrinsically linked with this and Saul Neguez. Any chance of swapping Pogba plus 60 million with Mbappe? Win-win for both Man United and PSG. Roshan got no chance. Off topic, but why does ESPN have a thing against Ollie? They've been talking smack since the new contract. Does that influence the fan base too, says Anish? Only if people actually watch ESPN, and if you watch ESPN, football's not for you, is it really? I mean, these are the ones that have like Steve Nicol on and Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop, you know, talking about United, and they know sod all. So no, I wouldn't take any notice. Why do so many fans want Deleuze sold to Milan over Brandon Williams to Southampton? Blatant British bias. Deleuze is head and shoulders above William. Well, I think, Andre, that Williams will go as well. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But let me just talk to you about this Pogba Saul Neguez thing. There was a story last night. I forget where it was from. I don't think it was particularly, you know, credible. But it was basically saying that United could sell Pogba to bring in Saul Neguez. Now, there is French reports that PSG are preparing a bid for Paul Pogba. Now, I am going to stay with where I've always said on this, but on a news show, you've got to tell the news. My stance is that Pogba will stay and run his contract down for another year. However, there are growing reports from France, that PSG are going to make a move for Paul Pogba and that he could be their big signing, especially because they're worried about they're going to lose Mbappe, and now Real Madrid have got a little bit of money. So Edgar says, I'm scared that Ollie isn't good enough. Well, we'll find out soon enough, Edgar. I wouldn't be scared too much. Paul Pogba would generate a lot of money for this transfer window. You know, if we get Paul Pogba out, if we sell Pogba and Lingard, we're going to have about 70 million quid. You're going to get about 40 to 50 million for Pogba, and you're going to get around 30 million for Lingard. So you're going to get around 70 million quid. Now, 70 million quid will help the net spend that we've already done, but it'll also allow us to bring in a midfielder. My issue with losing Paul Pogba is that I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants a holding midfielder and Pogba to stay. From what I've been told is that we're looking for a holding midfielder, and if Pogba goes, we might need to replace him as well, which is why Saul Neguez is being mentioned. Romano said it on the show yesterday, and again, there's more reports last night that United would like Saul Neguez if Pogba goes, and they'd be looking at around Atletico Madrid are looking for around 40 million. So I mean I didn't watch the Liga last season. You know, I put my hands up. I didn't. I couldn't tell you a lot about Pau Torres because I didn't watch the Liga. It was only towards the end of the season that I had a good look at him, and that's why I was listening to a lot of you lot saying he's a decent player. From what I saw of him at the end of the season and in the Euros, I'm very glad we've got Varane. Saul Neguez is a player that I've seen over the years and thought he's a really good player, but apparently had a bad year last year. Ultimately, Pogba for Saul Neguez is got to be a step down. Am I wrong? Am I wrong on that? But if we lose Pogba, we have got to replace him. But what I want to see is the money generated without Pogba being sold. Sell Lingard, sell Dan James, sell Matic, sell Pereira, and you know it's going to be a bit of work, but generate about 50 million quid from those sales, maybe even 60, and there's your midfielder. And Pogba takes care of himself next season, because if Pogba goes for free, Camavinga's available for free, Goretzka might be available for free, Zakaria's available for free. But I just want to see Manchester United get that holding midfielder in. And the bottom line is, and we're seeing it last night and we're seeing it this morning in the press, that United are going to have to sell to buy. And the interesting thing on that is that yes, you can sell Paul Pogba, but I think you create two. What I'm basically saying is, you know, there's two issues there. We've got one issue. We need a holding midfielder. We need a holding midfielder. And the Manchester Evening News have said this morning that the holding midfielder is the priority, but don't rule out and move for a centre-back or a right-back, another centre-back in addition to Varane, and a full-back, which we'll talk about in a minute. But on the midfielder, Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's priority now he's got the centre-back and Sancho, is to get a holding midfielder in. And this is what I want. This was my number one priority, and I think for you it was your number one priority, some of you as well. So I want this to happen. But to get the holding midfielder, you can't fund it by selling Paul Pogba, because if you get the holding midfielder and you sell Paul Pogba, you then need to replace Paul Pogba as well. And people will say Van der Beek, but the reality is, if we lose Pogba, I think we're in for a season of McFred. Even if we brought a holding midfielder in and it was someone like a Basuma or something like that, I think Ollie would go, you need time to adapt. Let's start with McFred. They did well against Leeds last Christmas. So the reason I want Pogba to stay is really not just because he's a good player, but because he can't put Pogba on the wing. He's got to play him in the midfield. And with the talent that we've got, that surely makes us a better team. And I'm going to do a video this afternoon on the impacts of Varane and what he will do to this team tactically and how he will play with Varane in it. But I'd love to see Pogba in that midfield, but we have got to generate money. And to do that, we heard yesterday about Matic looking to go. I don't think we'll get much for Matic. If we got 10 million for Matic, I would applaud it. I think 5 million for Matic, and removing him off the off the wage bill is a good idea, and creating that space in the midfield. So I think Matic for 5 million would be good. Pereira, again, if you could get rid of Pereira for 10 million, I would take that. So that'd be 15 million. And then Jesse Lingard goes for 25. You've got 40 million quid there. And that 40 million quid will buy you Saul Neguez. It will buy you Ruben Neves. It will buy you Basuma. You know, it will buy you Camavinga. We only need to raise about 40 million quid to buy this midfielder. And we can do it by removing 3 players that shouldn't be here next season and still not getting rid of Pogba. Do you think Ollie wanted Donny? Feel sorry for him, says Alex Lang. Well, I think we're about to find out about that. Of course, I must just bring this in. Please smash a like on the video, by the way, just before we move on to the next topic. Here's something for you to get your head around. We mentioned this at the start of the window. Remember at the start of the window, we were talking about how we could generate money. And I think we all sat down and said we can generate 100 million quite easily without, and it didn't include selling Pogba, and it didn't include selling Martial or anybody. The big failure United have made here is not selling one of the goalkeepers, because David De Gea, Dean Henderson, I'm not going to get in that debate. You don't need to in relation to what I'm about to say. If we'd sold one of our goalkeepers, we'd have £40 million. And this is where we failed. Why have we sat back and allowed that situation to drift? If we'd planned it properly, and what I mean by planned it properly is this problem was a problem all last season. Why has Ollie not sat down with Kadaki and Fellaini and just gone, you know what, next season we can't have this happen. One of these goalkeepers has got to go. Ed, we've got to sell one of these goalkeepers. Which one do you want to sell? Well, it doesn't, yeah, ideally I'd want to keep this one, but you tell me what's the easiest goalkeeper to get rid of. Well, to be honest with you, Dean Henderson's the easiest one to get rid of because he's on less wages and therefore he's an easier buy for clubs. Okay, let's do it. Or De Gea can go, but it's going to take a bit of work. Get on with it. We've not done it. We've drifted into this summer and basically gone, Well, Henderson's probably going to start off as our number one, but the same problems are going to exist because we've got one of the world's best goalkeepers on 350k a week sat on the bench with the cameras on him every single game. And the annoying thing for me is that the 40 million quid we would have got from Henderson or De Gea would have been used by now for a midfielder. But instead of that, we've got two fantastic, in my opinion, we've got two fantastic goalkeepers and you can only play one. And benching a fantastic goalkeeper makes it harder for the goalkeeper that's in place because you're always unable to relax. And also, let's just face up to it as well. If we loan David De Gea, any budget for a midfielder is being eaten into as we pay Roma or wherever he goes £1 million a week because they can't afford his wages. So 12 million a year going to David De Gea's loanee club. You know, we could have had 40 million by selling a goalkeeper. We didn't do it. I think we should buy Neguez and sell Pogba, let Donny play the pivots, says Craig Irwin. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, Craig. I just don't think Ollie wants to do it. Mark, don't you think it's great Varane won't have big price tag pressure, says Ethan. I don't think he would care if he did, Ethan, really. But yeah, I mean, he'll have the pressure anyway because people will want... Our rivals will be praying that Varane makes mistakes in the first few weeks. That, you know, that's what they will want, price tag or not. Julian says it's apparent that Ollie's still unable to make the tough decisions when it comes to goalkeepers. Varane signing will mean nothing if De Gea goes, says Julian S. And getting any midfielder will definitely be a step down. But if that midfielder comes in and has the same impact as Bruno, then it really is. Is it really a step down? Says Tapoa. Look, if Pogba decides to go. And I'm not convinced that he will. But if Pogba, you know, comes back from training, because he's not back. Bruno's back in training today, by the way, which is good. If Pogba comes back to training next Monday and says, I'm leaving, I want to go, then we've got to respect that, like Real Madrid had to respect what Varane did. You know, the shoe could be on the other foot. We might be about to receive that. And if Pogba wants to go and he wants to go to PSG, then we've got to do a deal. But if we don't have to do that deal, I wouldn't force a deal. I wouldn't. I would go into next season and just gamble because I think Paul Pogba in that team makes us a better team. And I know not everyone agrees with me on that, but I think Paul Pogba in that team does make us a better team. So let's wait and see what happens with Pogba, but I'm not convinced that he's going to leave United. And hopefully he won't. And I go back to what I was saying last night. If we can keep Pogba for another year, we've got Cavani for another year, we've got Sancho and Varane in, we've got Maguire, Shaw, we've got two good goalkeepers. Hopefully we pick De Gea, but you know, if not, we've got Henderson, Wan-Bissaka at right back. You've got Pogba in the midfield. You've got Rashford. You've got Martial. You've got Bruno. We've got a really good team, and then you add a holding midfielder in. That for me is let's go get it. And look, the start to the season is favourable for Manchester United. Look at the first few fixtures. I'm not disrespecting the teams that we're playing, and I know we've got Leeds first and we've got Wolves away, etc. But they're winnable games, and wins breed confidence. And if we can start this season with Varane and Sancho and Pogba and a holding midfielder and Bruno, and we start winning our first few games of the season and we get a bit of momentum, and you know, we hit the end of September and we've won 8 games in a row or something like that, and we're at the top, suddenly you're like, bloody hell, these people are starting to believe, they're focused, and you keep it going. In Christmas, you're still in a title race, and February, you're still in a title race, and you're doing well in the Champions League. Then you hit Easter time in April, and you're still in a title race. You're like, bloody hell, we've been there from the start. We've got to start this season well. We've shown great momentum in bringing Varane and Sancho in way before that game against Leeds. If we get the holding midfielder in, I think I'll keep calling it a 1-season wonder. It could be a 5-season wonder. But Cavani's gone in a year. We don't know who we're going to replace him with. Ideally, it'll be a Haaland, but we don't know that. Cavani's gone in a year, and Pogba's probably gone in a year. Let's go for it in this year. Let's see what we do, because it'll make everything else easier. If Cavani goes in a year with a Premier League winners' medal, and I know that's very far-fetched, but if he did, do you think we'd have a problem bringing a top-class striker in? God, no. Do you think Pogba's going to sign a new contract at United? No, I don't. But if we're going to win a Premier League medal, he might think, you know what, this is something exciting. He might not. Hi, Mark. You said that you expect 80 points from United this season. Mourinho got 81 points in 2017 with a bad squad. Should we have higher expectations, says Aditya? You can have higher expectations. I think to win the title, we're probably going to have to hit 90 points, maybe even more. But I think that progression should always be realistic. We didn't hit 75 points last season. We had about a 10-point improvement, didn't we? 8 points improvement. I think we got 66 when we came third, and we got 74 last year. So I would say that, you know, early 80 points would be what I would be looking at as progression, especially with the progression, third to second, also points progression, and then look at the players that we've bought. I would expect United to stop dropping silly points. And it's interesting, I read something this morning that Raphael, and I don't know how true it is, it was in the Manchester Evening News, I think, and they were basically saying that Raphael Varane is very meticulous and that he's asked for videos about United set pieces and everything like that. And apparently United have said there's no point you looking at those at the moment because we were a mess last year. We'll work on it when you get here. So he's a very meticulous player by all accounts, and settled. I think he's married to the girl he's known since school. Kids, speaks English, or his brother speaks English fluently. He speaks English. Very meticulous planner, professional. I think he's going to be a fantastic signing for us. And I think Varane will be the sort of player like Bruno that, well, you'd expect it more from Varane because of what he's won and his age and his experience at 28. But I think Varane will hit the ground running. I fear for Leeds. I know they're going to pass the ball around a lot, but Maguire and Varane up against Bamford, I think we'll be absolutely fine. Do you think, famous last words maybe, do you think Pogba will look at the players coming in and sign a new deal, says Waz? I hope so, but I personally don't hold much sway on that, because, Pogba will know who Sancho is. They've done stuff together, I think, for Pepsi, etc. He will know who Varane is. They've been playing together for years. So I'm sure Pogba will look at those signings and go, Bruno's been brought in as well. Got people like Luke Shaw playing like one of the best left-backs in the world. You've got Rashford. You've got Bruno, as I said. Cavani's a good striker. I'm sure Pogba looks at it and goes, yeah, this is looking good. But I think the thing with Pogba is it's year 5. And he might just be like, I want something else. But the only thing I would say about Paul Pogba is what I've said before. What else does Paul Pogba want? Because actually, if Paul Pogba hadn't played for United, I think we're still probably the best option for him. Because, yeah, we haven't won a title and we've not won a Champions League, and maybe PSG can offer that, but maybe Juventus can offer that. Maybe Barcelona and Real Madrid can offer those domestic titles. But I think United's team suits Pogba better. The problem is he's been here for 5 years and he might want something new. But Real Madrid and Barcelona, I think if Pogba goes there, he'll retire with very little. I don't, La Liga titles obviously because it's Real Madrid and Barcelona, but I don't think Champions Leagues. Goes back to Juventus. Well, you've been there before. Don't think you're going to win a Champions League with Juventus anytime soon. PSG, you're going to win the French title. Well, I could play there and win the title. Champions League, maybe. So I feel that this Pogba move is about trying something new and a new challenge, and we can't knock that because that's exactly what Varane's doing by leaving Real Madrid. But I think it's a shame for Pogba to go because obviously there's the money angle as well. Riola's his agent and there's a lot of money available, especially if he waits a year. But it's a shame on United, really. And this is something I will say is that, people are getting very excited about United's board, etc. But losing Pogba is on the board. 5 years he's been here. And in the summer that he's going to want to leave, we actually go and start delivering a team that's going to be good enough for Paul Pogba to play in. We've not had a summer like this before where we brought two in. The best summer we had was the one that we brought Pogba in recent years, and we brought Zlatan in. But we've never done this before. We've never brought 2 world-class players in, and I do think Sancho will be world-class, and I do think Varane is world-class, and we're probably going to bring another holding midfielder in. So in a way, it's quite sad that Pogba will probably want to go on the summer that we've actually got it right. But that's not Pogba's fault. He's been here 5 years. That's the board's fault. We should have done this 2-3 years ago. And obviously it wouldn't have been Sancho and Varane, but there would have been equivalents around at that time. They've invested in the squad too late, probably, to keep Paul Pogba. Hopefully not, but probably have. Why have they invested in the squad too late? Because of what happened at the end of the season, the protests, the Super League. This is guilt money. Said it in May. This is guilt money. I don't think, hand on heart, do you think that we have this summer if the Super League hadn't happened and the protests hadn't happened? I don't. I think we would be getting, it's a COVID market like last summer. It's a COVID market. You can't spend lots of money. We've not had fans in the ground for a year. I think this is guilt money. But I think it's sad that they haven't been performing like this in the transfer market for years, because I don't think Pogba would leave then. Do you think Ollie could play the way he did when he first came in, 4-3-3, left side overlapping with Shaw and Rashford, right side tucking in? Could Varane provide enough cover and Sancho enough width, says Ryan? Well, we need a holding midfielder to move towards that, Ryan. Nick P says, can Phil Jones pick up Varane from the airport? Dan James should wear a suit too and do his tie up properly. This is like having the Queen over for tea, says Nick P. So yeah, what else did I want to bring into the show? So I've spoken about Varane's medical. There's a little bit of talk that maybe Varane will have a medical tomorrow, but Romano and everyone was saying next week. That could change. It's about quarantine rules. I suspect we'll get it done a little bit quicker. Agree, Mark, but 90 million, you expect a lot more, says Ben Anderson. And yeah, I do agree with you on that, Ben. I do think we could have got more from Paul Pogba as an individual. I think he has been inconsistent, but I'm sat here now with Varane and Sancho coming in and saying I don't think we can win the title without a holding midfielder, which shows you it doesn't matter how many good players you've got. If you've got a hole in your team, it's a team game. Even with Sancho, Bruno, Pogba, Varane, Maguire, Shaw, Rashford, Cavani, decent keeper, I still don't think we can win the league if we don't bring a holding midfielder in. I still think that's a big hole in the team. So, you can't just say, we've got Paul Pogba, we should have won the league for the last 5 years. There's massive holes in that team. Pogba's been consistently abused by the United fan space and ex-players, and the club priced him out of a move. Wouldn't surprise me if he joins City for free, says Andre. Well, I've said that before, it could happen. And Pogba leaves for PSG just as Mbappe leaves for Madrid. I don't see it. I can see Madrid, but they can't afford those wages and Mbappe wages, says David Swanborough. I personally think I don't know the PSG situation, but I personally think that Mbappe will stay at PSG for another year and Paul Pogba will stay at Manchester United for another year. So, yeah, that's what I think will happen. So, yeah, Bruno returns today. Pogba and Lingard have been mentioned as players to be moved on potentially. Also, the centre-back situation is still being mentioned that United might look for another centre-back. I tweeted last night about Koundé. Imagine if we got him. I mean, I'd love Jules Koundé to come to the club, by the way. He's very welcome. I hate it when you cough and then get a hiccup. I might get rid of it. But Jules Koundé, I would take him at United. But where are we going to get the money from this? But forget Jules Koundé for a minute. Why are we being linked to another centre-back beyond Varane? And the reason for this is by buying Varane, you've got Varane and Maguire as your first choice centre-backs. Now, Harry Maguire does something and he's out for 2 months. You bring Lindelof in. Lindelof gets sent off. Who do you bring in then? Eric Bailly. Well, okay. What if Eric Bailly is injured? With 4 centre-backs at United probably isn't enough. But then again, Varane and Maguire might be fit all season and then Lindelof and Bailly get no time. The reason I think United are probably looking for another centre-back is because they got Eric Bailly on a long-term contract with 1 year left on his contract, and I think that was the United tactic of retaining value. They didn't want Bailly to go into his last year. Bailly will be at the Olympics now going, great. So I've signed a new contract at United, I've said I want to play first-team football, and I've got a less chance of playing first-team football next season than I did last season when Magaluf were playing, because he's going to play Varane and Maguire. Lindelof will be his 3rd choice, I'll be 4th choice. And there'll be a knock on the door or there'll be an agent ringing saying Eric Bailly wants to leave. So he might leave. I don't know how long Lindelof will put up with it as well. Lindelof might say I'm not up for it. Maybe there is this ridiculous notion that we're going to play with a back 5, which I think would be... I mean, to buy Raphael Varane and play with a back 5 would be like buying yourself a Formula 1 car, getting into a race and never getting out of second gear. You don't need... We're going to talk about it this afternoon on the show later about what Varane brings to the team. But you don't buy Varane and then play a back 5. You don't do that. So I think United are wary that they're probably going to lose Eric Bailly at some point. And Twan Sebi's going to go, maybe sold, probably on loan. Mengi's going to go on loan as well. So we probably do need another centre-back. But it's going to be interesting to see whether we can do that. Because the priority with 5 weeks left of this transfer window is to get a midfielder in. See what's happening with Pogba. We might need 2 midfielders in if Pogba goes. And we've got to generate some cash. Lindelof is also a seasoned Premier League player now. So firstly, he becomes a really good squad player. Also, he gets to learn from Varane now. Should become a better defender as well, says Kanishka. But it's whether he wants that to happen. Lindelof knows that if he could probably go and play for a lot of clubs across Europe and play first team football. I always said this about Lukaku. I would have liked Lukaku to stay at United as a bench player. I know that sounds stupid, but he was being pushed out of the team. And I preferred us with Martial, Rashford and Greenwood as a front 3 to Lukaku. And look, people say he's stupid. Lukaku's one of the best strikers in the world. I'm not arguing with that. I just think for my team, I liked the way we played without Lukaku. But I'd loved Lukaku to have said, I'm really happy to be a bench player because you've got one of the best strikers in the world on the bench. But he didn't want to do that. He wants to go and play football and be one of the best strikers in the world. And that's what he did. We look at this is why I think people like Scott McTominay and Fred are very valuable, because ultimately they shouldn't be first team players, but I think they'd be more than happy to sit on the United bench and work hard. being a bench player, look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He never really moaned. He was one of the best bench players there's ever been. And he never moaned, even though he could have probably played for Everton and broken their goal scoring record and played every week. He never moaned being a bench player at United. Lindelof might be Ole. He might sit on the bench and say, I'm just happy to be here and help out when I need. He also might go, I want to play first team football. And that could be at Everton, that could be at Atletico Madrid, but I'm good enough and I want to play first team football, and now I'm not going to be. And that the reaction of Lindelof and others is going to be interesting, because not everybody's happy to be the bench player. You know, my bench for me, if I could have a bench at the moment, you know, I'd love to have people like Lindelof on it, and people like McTominay and Fred on it, and Greenwood on it, and maybe Rashford on it sometimes. But are they happy to sit on the bench? That's the problem. And Jesse Lingard as well. Is he happy to be on the bench? Because I think he can do better than that. It's whether they convince themselves that they can get back into the first team, because I think they're kidding themselves. Lindelof's not going to play first team football next year unless we get an injury. Do you think it's a good rotation now, having Axel, Bay, Lindelof for cup games or midweek games before an important game, says Side Matt? Well, no, I disagree with that. I don't want to see much rotation in the centre-backs next season. I mean, Carabao Cup's fine. Let's do it there, but not in the league games or Champions League games. We're trying to win those tournaments. And the minute you start rotating your centre-backs because we've got Norwich at home is the minute you make mistakes and you draw with Norwich at home. So the league needs to be the priority this season. And one of the things I've always said about a centre-back partnership is you want them to play together for 80% of your games, because it gives you that platform, spine and stability. Can Phil Jones pick up Varane from the airport? I've done that one from Nick P. I don't know why that one's there again. Lindelof is all done that one. Do you think it's good rotate? Yeah, I've done that one. And Pogba will stay and see who else we sign, as when we resigned with him. With Jose, he was told we would sign world-class players. I hope Pogba stays and has the opportunity to have world-class around him, says Cam. Look, I'm not going to say that Paul Pogba is going to sign a new contract at Manchester United. I genuinely don't think he will. But I do think there is an opportunity for him to stay at the club for another year and just see what it's like. And then next summer he can make himself a lot of money with Mino Raiola. It just seems to me to make a lot of sense. Nothing on Ruben Neves, Shay. It's gone very quiet on that. I mean, it came from Talk Sport last week, you know. So, yeah, I don't think we can say too much about that. Right, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm going to have to head off because I've got a meeting now. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. We have got a video for you this afternoon. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be live and interactive, and we're going to be talking about obviously the latest United news, but also want to sit down and go through what Varane will bring to this team tactically and how we're going to look. Very excited about it. I'll speak to you a little bit later. Plus we've got the 8 o'clock show, and if you want to check out my FIFA career mode, it's on Goldbridge TV Twitch episode 1. Thanks for watching. Speak to you in a bit. Probably be a sort of around 2 o'clock this afternoon for that. Maybe a little bit earlier. Thanks for watching. Not FIFA, the Varane video. Speak to you in a bit. Take care.